Good morning. Quite a grey south coast at the moment. I've got to say, I was away in Portugal myself for a couple of weeks. I certainly haven't brought the weather back with me. It's been dreadful since we got back.
Away. But the old sea off Bournemouth's warmer than it is in Portugal, isn't it? God, it's like the Baltic.
That is true. Yeah, that is true, to be fair. So I can't complain too much.
Lovely part of the world. My family were down there a couple of weeks ago. They were down Bournemouth. They said it was absolutely gorgeous. They loved it.
Yeah, lovely place.
So, Alex, what about Declan? Is this going to happen Friday?
Yeah, I mean, I was never really in any doubt this would happen. We've been saying on talkSPORT for several weeks that Arsenal were always Declan Rice's preferred destination, even when Manchester City came calling. I think that's a really big call from Declan Rice, but he likes the idea of going to play for Mikel Arteta. He likes the project at Arsenal. He's actually been away on holiday, so I think that's been part of the reason for the delay. But as you say, medical now scheduled for Friday. The two clubs have been talking for several days about the structure of this British record £105 million deal. West Ham, understandably, wanted as much of the £100 million upfront payment upfront as possible. That's going to be paid in 3 instalments over a 2-year period. So credit to David Sullivan. He had his agenda, and it looks like Arsenal have now met his demands. And I think Declan Rice is going to be an excellent addition for Arsenal. Yeah, I think he'll kick on to a new level. Speaking to Stuart Pearce about this, obviously coached him at West Ham. He believes there's much more to come.
As in Declan Rice. More assists and more goals.
Exactly. And I think in the Arsenal side, he'll be given the freedom like Granit Xhaka was last season. I think he is a direct replacement for Xhaka, who's bound for Bayer Leverkusen, to get in the box, to get goals. What was it, 7 or 8 goals? Granit Xhaka
can't all go forward,
Crookie.
You're going to have Havertz and Odegaard bombing forward as well. You can't have Rice as well.
Well, I'm interested to see what happens with Ben White, Gabby, actually, because we know that they're going to bring in Yuri and Timber. That's going to be as a straight right back. Ben White probably won't get a centre-back position because the partnership of Gabriel and William Saliba set to sign a new contract was so important last season.
There's someone for West Ham then.
Well, I think he might move up into sort of John Stones' midfield role, if you like, Ben White. I wouldn't rule that out. So he might well be the holding midfielder, and that will enable Declan Rice to go further forward. What it does do now, because we're talking in this way, it gives Mikel Arteta options. I think the big reason that Arsenal fell away so badly at the end of the last season was a lack of squad depth. You look at the number of games that Bukayo Saka, who was running on empty come the end of the season, had to play. But by getting Havertz, Timber, Declan Rice, there could well be more additions. They're going to have options now, not just in the Premier League, but of course they're back in the Champions League as well.
Crookie, what about Harry Kane to Bayern Munich? Because from my experience of being in football, clubs don't really put in bids unless they've already spoke to the player's agents and he wants to make the move. You know, they don't want to make a fool out of themselves and Spurs agreeing and Harry Kane doesn't want to go. So Harry Kane must be keen on the idea.
I make you right about that. I think, we're talking about Declan Rice. Personal terms would have long since been agreed for that deal, so there's no issues there. And I think Bayern must have been given encouragement from the Kane camp to show some interest, although sources at Spurs are still suggesting that no official bid has actually been tabled. So maybe the truth is somewhere in between. I'm sure there's been verbal conversations where Bayern have indicated what they're willing to pay, and clearly Tottenham have said, well, that's nowhere near enough. Daniel Levy wants to keep Harry Kane, certainly doesn't want to sell him to a Premier League rival. I think if Bayern did put big money on the table, I'm talking £100 million, he would have a decision to make. I'm just not sure they're going to get that high. I still expect Harry Kane to be a Tottenham player come the end of the window.
What about Kyle Walker? Interesting. They do this at City, don't they? They let a couple of great players go and they've not missed them. Kyle's another one who, for me, hasn't let City down. Is he going to leave, Alex?
Well, obviously, they've lost Gundogan, which I think was a big blow because they did offer him a new contract. He played such a big role in their treble win at the end of last season. It looked a couple of weeks ago as if Kyle Walker could be following him out of the exit door. Strong interest from Bayern Munich and his old club, Sheffield United, although financially that would be a difficult deal to do. Looks as if City are going to try and keep him with the offer of a 2-year contract. Kyle Walker was very unhappy that he didn't start the Champions League final at the end of the season. So I think there are bridges to be built, but this is a reflection that Pep Guardiola still feels he has a big role to play.
A Chelsea or Spurs or
Newcastle? He's irreplaceable, though, for me, Kyle Walker. I know he missed a few games and Akanji was sort of covering, but if he left Manchester City, Crookie, I think every Premier League team will be buzzing. Every left-sided player, left winger will be, thank Thank goodness.
Well, here's one for you as well. What about, look, do we give up on Lukaku or not? We're talking about lack of goals. Clubs need goal scorers. What has happened to Lukaku here, Alex? Where could he go?
Well, I think if you saw his performance in the Champions League final, it's going to be very difficult for Chelsea to find anybody to pay big money. It's an issue for Chelsea because he's still got time to run his contract. He's still right at the top of the payroll. They paid massive money to bring him back to the football club. He doesn't want to go to Saudi. They'd be quite keen on that, but he's made it clear he wants to stay in Europe. I think Inter Milan is his preferred destination. More talk set to take place this week. But Chelsea want some kind of guarantee this time around. They're not at the moment willing to entertain just a straight loan deal. They want at least an option, if not an obligation, to buy at the end of the season. I mean, this is another beacon, isn't it, of Chelsea's bad recruitment. That actually predates Todd Boehly. Todd Boehly's got a lot of stick for spending too much money in the last couple of transfer windows. But Chelsea as a club in the last few years have bought badly. And I think Lukaku is an illustration of that.
So Mason Mount has gone to Manchester United, Crookie, but what else do you think you're missing, your team United, to really challenge this season? Because you need a centre-forward. You can't go into the season with Martial as your only centre-forward.
Now we're singing from the same hymn sheet there, Gabs. I think Martial's time should have come to an end, but the difficulty is who's going to pay him the wages that he's on at Manchester United, who's going to pay a transfer fee to help balance the books. Same with Harry Maguire, an £80 million asset. They'll be lucky to get, £35 million if he does move on. And therein lies the problem for Manchester United. Two key positions that Erik Ten Hag is targeting. Number 9, as you say, can't afford Osimhen, aren't going to get Harry Kane. Even the young lad Højlund is proving problematic because of the asking price, and he wants a new goalkeeper. Very keen on Andre Onana. But in order to facilitate Mason Mount, as you say, done deal, £60 million commitment there, and number 9 and a goalkeeper, United are going to have to sell some players, and that's easier said than done because as much as Chelsea have been bad buyers over the past few years, United have been terrible sellers.
Who's, Alex, one last one, who's the team that have got to spend other than big trouble? Gabby thinks Wolves might go down. Who's the team that's got to spend?
It's interesting with Wolves because obviously they've let Collins go for a club record fee. I think there is interest in Max Kilman. If that gets to a certain level, he'll go as well. Obviously, Lopetegui was a bit anxious at the end of the season about a lack of finances, so I can see why Gabby, and it's not just a Midlands rivalry, has picked out Wolves. I still think Newcastle have work to do in order to maintain their upward momentum because you look at the battle for the top 4, you'd expect that Chelsea are going to get better under Pochettino. You look at Tottenham under Postecoglou. I think they've had a good window so far. Manchester United will try and back Erik Ten Hag where they can. Arsenal are strengthening. Man City are Man City. Liverpool are rebuilding. So at the moment, a good signing, by the way, in Tonali. But if they don't spend a lot more money, I don't see Newcastle finishing top 4 next season.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.